In this video, I'm going to just run off some random thoughts about being schizoid and how it influences us in terms of our relationship with society, how it makes us different from society, and the ways in which our motivations differ from the majority of other people due to this. I remember people suggesting to me that there's something wrong with me because I don't trust people and because I don't open up to people and I don't feel comfortable sharing personal information about myself. And this is meant to be a disorder, but I don't really see how those aspects of being schizoid actually constitutes a disorder. When you look around at the world and you see the state of a lot of people's relationships and a lot of the difficulties that they're going through as a consequence of trusting people, as a consequence of sharing personal information about themselves and wanting to fit into the group, it seems that not doing all those things isn't such a bad idea. By having these defenses in place that creates a barrier between us and other people, it's cutting out a lot of shit. It's a lot of things that we just don't have to deal with, and that's got to be like the positive side of being schizoid. I think being different from other people in the sense of how we think and how we function gives a good reason not to trust people. And this is linked to the fact that a lot of people really are primarily users, which means that they're really just like weighing people up to see like what use other people are, how they can take advantage of other people or capitalize or exploit what other people have going on. So in that sense, because schizoid individuals don't have these sort of agendas, it automatically puts us at a disadvantage in relationships, in the sense that if we had the same intentions, we could like work out some kind of a deal with other people. But because we don't have those intentions, it's a very imbalanced situation motivationally. I think the reason why we don't have those intentions are because we do tend to be self-sufficient, and that we derive a lot of interest from within ourselves, and so we're not really gonna need other people in the same way as majority of people do. People need people for comfort, they need people for praise, they need people for company. There's just a lot of needs that we don't have. So in that sense, it's quite imbalanced if we were to consider having a relationship with another person. Schizoid individuals tend to be unaware of their needs. We're unaware of our needs because from early on in our life, we engaged in a habit of disconnecting from our needs. And this was primarily because we didn't really see other people as being able to fulfill our needs. And then over time, by engaging in this pattern, it's easy to become unaware of your needs or to feel that you don't have any. And the needs that we are aware of, we tend to want to fulfill by ourselves. And this can take different forms. In the main, we tend to be very self-sufficient so that we don't have to rely on other people for anything. But also, we can use our imagination or fantasy and other psychological mechanisms to fulfill a need such as emotional needs. What I've noticed about schizoid individuals is that we vary a lot in terms of our emotional relationship within ourselves. So by this I mean that there are some schizoids who seem to be very aware of their emotions and other schizoids that are not. I would say that the reason for this is going to depend upon upbringing and childhood experiences. There are some people who were left alone to freely experience their emotions in whichever way that they wanted to, and then there were other people who were felt that they needed to suppress and disconnect from emotions in order to survive the environment that they were in. And in particular, this would be people who were in environments that were triggering a lot of negative emotions within. And so I think that this accounts for the variance and the different spectrum of emotional connectivity within schizoid individuals. I think that whether or not we are in touch with our emotions, that what is the same for all schizoids is that we don't depend on other people to meet our emotional needs, and we tend to be quite sufficient at dealing with this realm. When it comes to physical needs, we tend to be lower on that spectrum, and this is because a lot of us are detached from our physical bodies, which means that our physical needs, apart from obvious needs like for food and shelter, etc., don't really factor very high on our agenda. And therefore we can be like quite content with simple situations and circumstances, and we don't really tend to want things outside of like basic needs. And in society, this is quite unusual. With the aspect of fantasy and imagination, we can be very contented within ourselves and by ourselves. And this can take away a lot of motivation, because in our minds, we can like generate experiences that don't depend on us going out into the physical world and actually having those real life experiences. And this saves us a lot of energy expenditure. So whereas people may feel the need that they need to go to a lot of places or have a lot of real life experiences, we can generate experiences within our mind. So in that sense, our need to engage in the external world and socially is going to be less than the average person. I think that people tend to notice that we're different, and often this is judged in a negative way because other people are judging by their own standards, and they probably see a lot of times, I think they see that we are lacking in things that they have. But the things that we're lacking in tend not to be things that are important to us. So whereas they might think that, oh, we're not competitive and we're not ambitious and we're not trying to get attention, other people can see this as a deficit or lack that means that we're less than they are. But in reality, it doesn't